And I believe that sometimes if you're on the freebie version, because it's happened to me, it says ChatGPT 3.5 is full right now. Please try again later. I believe if you go to 4, you always have access to it.
It will, no, you can sometimes, it can overload sometimes, but it's not as often. You get priority. You definitely get priority.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Mortgage Influencers, where we bring you professionals who share insight into the latest trends, tips, industry technology, and services to help you be a mortgage influencer in your mortgage business.
I'm going to lie. I do have a problem in this world, and you're the man that can help me solve this problem. We keep hearing, and folks, a little gimmick. We're getting right into it. We hear about AI. You can't open up anything without hearing about AI. I look at it from this sort of concept. I've dabbled, I've played, I've looked at it. My sister, she asked me, she goes, how does this stuff work? Like, what would it say about me? Can it create a resume? And I'm like, well, give me this. And boom, I created a resume for her. And she's like, oh my God, that makes me sound awesome. I played with it a little bit. I actually did go on the other day and say, hey, I'm looking to lose a couple pounds. Can you give me a diet that'll help me lose a couple pounds? And boom, all of a sudden it says, this is what you eat, breakfast, lunch, and dinner for the next 20 days. And you should lose this amount of weight. So I've used it. What scares me about AI is, one, I don't think it's going to replace everybody's jobs. It's going to be, how do you leverage it to do your job better? I firmly do believe that. But I think there can be an over-reliance on it. So instead of the authenticity of us, and especially if you're a loan officer or something like that, or a real estate agent, how am I showing who I am? You're letting AI take over your own personality, which is a bad thing. But I also love to use it as a brainstorming tool. So I'm sitting here as an individual, right? I'm self-employed. And if you're a loan officer or a real estate agent, I know you're working with a company, but it still feels like you're self-employed, right? Yeah. And it's a great way to say, am I thinking about this the wrong way? What's another way to look at that? What are other concerns that a first-time home buyer might have that I haven't thought about? And it's a great brainstorming tool. But I'm scratching the surface. And that's the beauty of my man, Scott, because Scott is, you can't see this, but he's like elbows deep in the AI. So I'm going to shut up for a second. I know he wants to talk about a couple different AI platforms. I'm hoping you'll start with ChatGPT, because that's the one that I'm most familiar with. Yeah. And we've actually asked Scott today to share his screen. So it's not just him talking about it. He can show us how to do some cool stuff. So Scott, boom, the mic is yours.
All right, let me make sure I get the right screen here. Yep, that's the right screen. Okay, cool. And Steve, if you want to chat, man the chat, I'm not going to pay attention to that.
Yep, I got that.
Okay, so yeah, I'm going to show you some bells and some whistles and some fun stuff that is kind of going on. And Steve, you said something that's really, really important. First of all, we're all scratching the surface of this, because what this technology can do is going to be different for every single person that uses it. One of the things that you heard when the AI first came out is, well, everybody's going to sound like AI. Everything's going to sound the same. But that is absolutely not the case. It will never give two people the exact same information. And if you don't like the information, you just tell it to regenerate the information and give you more. One of the biggest things that I see with people that start it is they do what you were doing. And this is how I started. I used it as a search engine. I said, can you give me, I want to lose some weight. Can you give me the top 10 ideas? Well, all it's doing is, they call it observational search. It has billions of data points. It's not live. It's not on the internet. It only goes up to September 2021. So if there's a new diet that came out in October of 2021, it didn't give you any of that advice. So it goes out there, it observes all of the information, and then it gives you the best answer. What AI is really good at is figuring out what you think you're asking it to do. And this is one of the most important things that I think you need to understand, or that you should understand if you really want to get the most out of AI. First of all, don't ever use it for something that you don't already know the answer to, right? Because it makes stuff up all the time, constantly. There's a couple of cases right now. There's a couple of attorneys in Oregon that are losing their license. And there's a great case in New York where the prosecutor said, Judge, none of the precedents that the defense is citing, those aren't real cases. And so the judge pulls them up to the desk, and the defense attorney goes, no, I asked ChatGPT to create these. And he says, but I don't think those are real cases. And he goes, no, they are. I asked ChatGPT if they were real cases, and it said that they were. And they weren't. They were completely made up. And I've had it make up some crazy stuff. So what you're actually looking at on my screen is what I call it a setup prompt. So I wanted to create a bunch of content about student loan payments that are coming up that are going to be due in October. It's a huge deal. Everybody on this call should know about this. They should know that student loan payments are going to start in October, and it's going to be complete chaos. So my setup prompt is, I want you to act like a loan officer, create a series of content pieces for all of these topics. And then I told it everything that I know about the topics. Now, the great thing is my grammar doesn't have to be perfect. It can be bullet points. I can copy and paste from different articles if I want.
And Scott, scroll back up to the top of your prompt. You said something earlier in our conversation is you can change the voice.
Yeah.
What you do in your first sentence, I want you to act like a mortgage loan officer. You could say, I want you to act like a real estate agent. I want you to act like an attorney, or I want you to act like a student at university. Now, all of a sudden, it's going to say it in different verbiage and that way. So you can absolutely change the voice of it. The other thing, here's a caveat to something that you said, Scott. Whatever he's showing us today, it's going to change in 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months,
2 hours,
because it's constantly evolving. So that's why you got to get in today and go along with the evolution of it, because once it gets where it is, you're going to be left behind.
So that's a great segue to what I really wanted to show you here. Is there's a new feature. I don't know if this is only the ChatGPT 4 or ChatGPT Plus, but there's a new feature with ChatGPT now, because before you had to go in there and
explain
you had to
the
tell it
difference.
what you did.
What's ChatGPT 4 and ChatGPT Plus? Because I bet you some people don't know that. I'm getting
So
that.
the free version is 3.5 and the paid version is 4. So there's a pretty big difference between 3 and 4, but for most people, 99% of people, the free version is going to be okay. The 4 version, so this is the free version. The 4 version, you have plugins. So you have different things that it can do, and plugins are just plugins are all these different things. Like you can plug it into the Bible and you can ask it questions, and the Bible is the source. You can plug it into the Quran. You can plug it into the U.S. Federal Law Library. You can search websites. So that's connections that it made with all of these different sites like Travelocity. Give me an itinerary for a 2-week vacation in Paris. And it'll go to Travelocity, and it'll go and it'll say, go to this place and this thing. So that's the difference between 3 and 4. 4 is $20 a month, and it's very advanced. It's much quicker. It's more concise, and the logic is better if you're trying to trick it and give it logic questions.
And I believe that sometimes if you're on the freebie version, because it's happened to me, it says ChatGPT 3.5 is full right now. Please try again later. I believe if you go to 4, you always have access to it.
It will. No, you can sometimes, it can overload sometimes, but it's not as often. You get priority. You definitely get priority. I think they fixed that. It used to be that way a lot in the past, but recently I'm not having that many challenges. ChatGPT 4 also increased the input and the output, so you can input a lot more content. So, for instance, this one, the setup prompt that I showed you is pretty long. You wouldn't have been able to do that probably 2 weeks ago. It would have said the prompt is too long and you have to break it up. But here's what I want to show you. So there's a new setting. So if you click on your name down here on the bottom, and when you sign up, your name will be down here on the bottom. You go to settings and you go to beta features, and there's a new thing called custom instructions. So custom instructions is pretty cool. Once you turn that on, now this is where you can tell it who you are and how you want it to act most of the time. So this is where I can say, I'm Steve Richmond, I'm a public speaker. I talk about these topics. These are my values. These are the things I always want people to know. Here's my approach. I like to be humorous. You can tell it whatever you want. So it says, what would you like ChatGPT to know about you for better responses? So it's who you are. So, okay, so here we go. Where are you based? What do you do for work? What are your hobbies? What subjects do you like to talk about? What are some of your goals? And then how would you
like to talk about for hours? I like that.
Yeah, so you have 1,500 characters. And then thought starters. How formal or casual should ChatGPT be? How long or short should the responses be? How would you want to be addressed? Sir, please, or Your Majesty, either one. And should ChatGPT have opinions on topics or remain neutral? So this is a new feature that is basically how it's going to approach every prompt that you give it.
And once again, where do you get that? Just show us that, click those buttons.
One more time. It's under your profile, which is in the lower right-hand corner. You click on that. And to turn it on, if you have access to it, it's under settings and beta, and then it's under beta. And then you should see a little toggle here. So it's probably the paid version. It's probably ChatGPT Plus. If you'll know whether you have free or plus, if it says down here, upgrade to plus, and if you don't see 4 as an option, it'll just give you the screen and you won't have the option to toggle in between the two.
And once again, folks, if you have any questions, go into the chat box, go into the Q&A. I'll be reading them because we got Scott and he's happy to answer whatever you got.
Yep. So that's ChatGPT. So like, real quick, I guess I'll show you what I did here is I actually created 19 pieces of content off of one topic. And the thing you need to know about AI is when you're in a single chat, and they call these chats, if I start a new chat, it doesn't remember anything that I talked about. But if I'm in one chat, it always remembers everything that we talked about. So what I typically like to do is I like to create long form content, and this is hub and spoke strategy. Write me a long form article about this topic. And then I can tell it, give me SEO optimized headlines for it, create social media posts following platform best practices for Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, Google My Business, and it'll format the answers and it'll throw in emojis and it'll follow the best practices for all the platforms. So this one, here's my setup. I gave it all the information. This is an important thing that I always do, that I would recommend everybody do, is I always tell it to not create content yet and just let me know that you understand. So that is more for you to see if you're asking it the right thing to do, if it understands what you're asking it to do, as opposed to whether it understands, because it understands exactly what you tell it. And so this kind of says, here's the information. I'm going to create various content pieces that emphasize these points. We're going to kind of warn people, but we're going to give them hope. And then I create a blog posts.
Go back and show us that prompt that says, don't create content. Where did you do that?
I do it in the setup. Here. It says, do not create content yet.
There you go.
Please review the following information and let me know you understand. So I put that on all of mine. And then this, I just wrote a diatribe of everything that I know about this topic. I'm putting together classes for this now. So I've been knee deep in the student loan payment crisis for the last 2 weeks. So I wrote everything that I wanted it to know, what I'm afraid of, what I should want to warn people about, what they should look out for, what their options are going to be, how they can find out what their options are. And with student loans, it's been in the news every day for the last 2 or 3 weeks. And there's something that changes every single day. And there's a lot of confusion and a lot of clickbait headlines. So I'm saying, you may have heard this headline. Here's what this really means. And so I'm telling it everything. And then it says, okay, here's what I think you're telling me. And it's correct. And then I say, great, I want to start with a blog post that explains a sense of urgency for home buyers. Now, this prompt is for homeowners, so I approached it different ways. And then I said, write me a blog post that talks about this. So it wrote me a blog post, and I asked it to put headlines and bullet points to make it easier to read and to follow SEO best practices. Then I asked it to write me a series of 5 emails that I can send to home buyers to let them know. And basically, this is going to affect purchasing power. If their student loan payments are high, I want to let them know that there's a such thing as income-based payments that'll lower their payment according to their income and how many people are in their household. And actually, one of the new plans that the administration just put out cut that payment in half. And it raised the income limit so more people qualify. So this is taking topics from my long form blog post, and it's writing a series of 5 emails. My call to action is to reach out to me or schedule a time on my calendar to get more information. So here's more information about it. Here's how we plan ahead. Here's to watch out for private student loan consolidation schemes that are tricking people into permanent higher payments. Then I asked it to write me 3 Facebook posts. So here's 3 Facebook posts that it gave me. And again, it's all coming from that setup prompt. Then I'm doing Facebook ads, then I'm doing.
I would just say, remember when you're listening to what Scott says, is it doesn't have last week's information on it. So
No.
He's providing the actual facts, the data, the information. And what the ChatGPT is doing is it's rewording it and restructuring it, but the knowledge base is still coming from Scott. It's not scouring the internet for you.
Yes. So that's a good segue for Bard. Let's look at Bard, because I told
That's
you
why I did it. I wanted to give you a good segue.
This can go so fast. So Bard is connected to the internet. It's Google's version. Now, when Google Bard was introduced globally in February of this year, so ChatGPT was only released, it's a baby. It was born in November of 2022. It's barely 8 months old. Bard was rolled out on February 22nd, I think, of 2023. When Google Bard did a video of an example at this worldwide live stream or conference, and it asked it, how do I describe what the Hubble telescope does to my 9th grader? It got it wrong, and Google lost $1 billion in market value overnight. So now 2 weeks ago, or about 3 weeks ago, Google had a global conference, and it's been upgraded and it's a lot better. It's really, really amazing. But I just want to show you the coolest new version.
And I also want just show everybody at the very top, how do you get to it? The other one was OpenAI ChatGPT. This is bard.google.com.
Bard.google.com. Now, Bard has a new version. You can enter in prompts here. So ChatGPT is going to be your copywriter, your artist, your mathematician, whatever you're going to ask a professional. I use it for copywriting and content. So that's what it is. Google Bard, the way that they describe it, is it's a librarian for the world's information. So it's not going to talk to you like ChatGPT. ChatGPT is designed for conversation. Bard is still a search engine, but it basically, you're going to ask it, the librarian is going to go to the internet and it's going to come back and say, I found this information for you. And then it's going to give you links and it's going to cite the different links and things like that. But one of the cool things that they just did is this little plus symbol down here. You can now upload pictures and it can see pictures. So my experiment was, well, can a real estate agent use this to write their listing descriptions? So I pasted this picture from a listing from Redfin. And I said, can you describe this picture for me? And it says it shows a bedroom with a queen size bed and a dresser and a television. The bed is against the wall opposite the door. So like, that's pretty cool technology, right? Then I said, then I gave it a kitchen and I said, can you describe this kitchen for an audience of home buyers? The description will be part of a real estate listing to sell this home. And then it gave me that. And it sort of said, this kitchen is the heart of the home. And this one is no exception. It is spacious and well appointed with everything you need to cook up a delicious meal. And then it kind of gives you a bunch of bullet points. So play with Bard. It's free. It's fun. You can ask it to do different things and it'll give you links and it'll show you where it got the information from.
Could I take a picture of you, put it in there and say, who is this?
Wow, that would be really interesting. Yeah, it's connected to Google Lens. So it's using Google Lens technology. And if there's other pictures of you, it'll definitely find it.
And an interesting thing, and I haven't used Bard, but think about this for real estate. You can now say, hi, here's a picture of a house. And you can say something along the lines of, tell me about the neighborhood where this house is located, or tell me about what are the closest businesses to this, because it'll know, because what you just said, it's Google Lens. It's through Google Maps. It knows exactly which house that is. So
I haven't tried that. I'd be curious to see if if it can like match it with a real estate listing and then get all of that geographic data from it. It probably can. But it can definitely look at the picture and describe the picture to you. It features granite countertops, stainless steel appliances, gas range, double ovens, and a dishwasher. Has a large island in the center of the kitchen, perfect for preparing meals, socializing with your family. Also has plenty of storage space, cabinets and drawers throughout, well lit with natural light from the windows and overhead lighting. Kind of cool.
This is less than 5 months old.
Yes, this is less than 5 months old. It's it's kind of crazy. And then the last one that I want to show you guys, because we're coming up here on the top of the hour, is called Claude.ai. So Claude.ai was started from 7 people from the original OpenAI team, the ones that invented ChatGPT. A friend of mine actually asked Claude to compare ChatGPT, Bard, and Claude said that it uses the ChatGPT 3 architecture. So it's not nearly as advanced. It doesn't give as good of answers. It's not like ChatGPT, but the really cool thing about Claude.ai is you can add attachments. So when I hover over this, you can add up to 5 files of 10 megabyte each, and it accepts PDFs, text, CSVs. So you can attach an Excel spreadsheet and say, analyze this data and give me these answers. But the experiment that I did with it is I uploaded my DISC profile and I uploaded my Perry Marshall's marketing DNA profile. And I basically approached it as if I'm managing Scott, what's the best way to communicate with Scott? So I said, what can you tell me the best way to communicate with Scott from his DISC profile? So it kind of gives me how to talk to Scott. And it's from the DISC profile, so it's right on. Then I gave it the marketing DNA test, which tells you what kind of marketer you are. Are you somebody that likes to plan stuff out? Are you good live? Are you spontaneous? Do you like to tell stories? Are you data driven? That kind of thing. And so that was kind of cool. It tells me what my likes are. I like words. I like live speaking. I have a lot of empathy. Very, very true. Dislike management by numbers, historical analysis, and operations. So then I said, what are the best ways for Scott to grow his business based off of his marketing style and his disc test? And it said, leverage speaking engagements. As an impromptu orator, look for opportunities to speak to groups about home financing. That was my number one strategy for growing my origination business, as I did lunch and learns for real estate agents. Create compelling content. Scott should write a persuasive mortgage-related articles and blogs. I started a mortgage blog in 2007 that gets 25 to 30,000 unique visitors a month today. I wrote 2 to 3 articles a week for 10 straight years. I didn't tell it that. It said that's what I should do based off of my disc test and my marketing assessment. Focus on in-person networking. Like, it's not wrong. That's just a character flaw of mine. I'm not comfortable doing in-person networking. I'm comfortable on a stage, but it's hard for me to do one-on-one. Tell stories. That's what I do all day long, is I teach people how to tell stories on video. Be flexible, appeal to emotions.
And then you can, Scott, I don't know if you can do this with Claude, but you can go back to ChatGPT and say, how can I focus on in-person networking? And it will give you ideas on how to do that. Because this just says, hey, focus on in-person networking. And you say, how do I do that? Boom, it'll give you ideas how to make that happen.
And this part is kind of cool. So then I was thinking, well, what if I manage a team? What if I manage a team of loan officers and everybody's kind of struggling right now? So how do I communicate with them to inspire them? And so this one, I asked it, how do I try to win an argument or persuade Scott? And it told me how to approach me. Then what I did is I said, which was really good. It told it exactly how to approach me. Then what I did is I said, here's a bio from a local real estate agent that I want to introduce Scott to. How should he approach this real estate agent based off of their bio in LinkedIn? And it said, and it told me how I should approach this person, what things we have in common, what things I should bring up. And then this one was, I'm Scott's manager. If I'm Scott's manager and he's feeling a bit down about the industry right now, how can I communicate with him to bring his energy up and prepare him for success in this market? And it says, emphasize helping people, remind him that he's making an impact on people that are out there trying to figure out this market. Outline a clear path, allow time to process, focus on quality and excellence.
Once again, and it goes, and I'm looking
how do I do this?
I'm flipping it right back to how we started.
Yep.
It's not replacing your job. It's something that you can leverage to do your job better.
That's right. 100%. This will never replace people. This will only make what you already do better. It'll save you time, because you could come up with this stuff. You could grab your employee's DISC test and you can learn how to do DISC assessments. But yeah, that's all any of this is. Those are some cool things. Those are some fun things that you can do with those 3 platforms. And did that get your juices flowing a little bit?
I'll tell you what I'm going to do. And it's back to networking. If you don't know this, you can go to LinkedIn and you can download an Excel spreadsheet of all the people that you're associated with on LinkedIn. And it will give you the person's first name, last name, and the company that they work for. I'm now going to take that to Claude and say, based upon the person's first name, last name, and the company they work for, find the email address for their work email address for this person. And I want to see if it's going to download and find all the email addresses.
Claude is not connected to the internet. I would see if you can do it in Bard.
Okay.
Bard is connected to the internet. ChatGPT had a Bing interface that they disconnected. But what I can also tell you, so this was something that I tried, is I wanted to take their LinkedIn about profile and ask them if they could give me their disc profile based off of content that they've written, and it wouldn't do it. So there are definitely safety things in there, like it won't do psychological profiling. I doubt it will find email addresses, but I would love to hear if that worked.
I'm going to play. I'm going to try.
You absolutely should try. But yeah, the sky is the limit. Hopefully this demystifies this a little bit. It's not scary. It's fun. Just experiment with it. You can't do it wrong. But just play with it and get comfortable with it, because it is going to fundamentally change the way that we interface with the world's information. If you're not doing it now, you need to do it now so you can get prepared for it in the future.
Imagine if it was 20 years ago, 40 years ago, and you were trying to explain to people what Google did. And you're like, oh, if you could just go get online and figure out what Google does, that's how you should be thinking about AI, because it's the new way to find this stuff. It's the new way to communicate, but you got to get on it because it's constantly evolving. Scott, you are the man. You have a ton of information. Forget about me. Everybody who's sitting here and looking at this is giving a thumbs up. It just floated up the screen. Thumbs up. Thank you so much for sharing that information with us today.
Absolutely.
Everybody, that's Scott. I'm Steve. I hope you have stay in the air conditioning. It's too hot outside, and I hope you have a great rest of your week. Take care, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.